Welcome to Gail's Kitchen. Today we're making a peach galette. It's a simple rustic tart with a peach filling. It takes less time than making a pie because you don't have to line your pie plate and crimp the edges. You just fold the crust up over the filling. Today we're using an all butter crust, and this crust is just golden and flaky. It has incredible depth of flavor. You will love making this simple rustic peach tart. Start out by making an all butter crust. You're going to need 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 stick of butter, and 2 teaspoons of sugar. To make a pie crust, everything needs to be cold. And I've actually frozen my stick of butter, and I'm going to go ahead and grate this butter right into the bowl. It only takes a couple minutes to grate the butter, and all cold ingredients is really what you need for a successful pie crust. You can certainly use an ice cold stick of butter right out of the refrigerator and slice it both directions, and then cut it into small cubes, and then work that into your flour. We've grated 1 stick of frozen butter. To this, we're going to add 1 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, and I weigh my flour. I think you just, it's easier to measure by weighing, and you get more consistent results by weighing, because your flour will get packed in the container. If you don't use a scale, you can certainly fluff the flour and then spoon it into your measuring cup, and then wipe off the excess. Toss that flour and the shards of butter that we've grated. Add 2 teaspoons of sugar. To get our dough to come together, you need ice cold water. So I used 1/3 cup of water in my container, and then I put ice in it. So you can pour in by the tablespoon. You're probably going to need somewhere between 5 and 8. So I go ahead and put 3 tablespoons. Ice cold water, ice cold. Very, very important. And fluff this with a fork as that flour starts to absorb that ice cold water. So this is the 4th tablespoon. Just sprinkle it around. So you don't want any more water than you absolutely need. But obviously you've got to have enough water to get this to come together. And it's just starting to come together, but it's not really holding together. So it seems that 6 tablespoons is the sweet spot, but let's go with number 5. And because I know it's probably going to need 6, it may need more. Sometimes, it all depends on the humidity in your room as well. So it's starting to come together, and I actually take my hand and kind of squeeze it. And I want 1 more tablespoon of water. I want it to be a little more cohesive. So we'll end up at about 7. Get all this together, form like a ball, and knead this. Turn the dough over on top of itself and just push it just a little with the heel of your palm, and turn it and push it again. And let's do this about 4 times until we get this crust to come together. Now just form it into a disc. I like to go ahead and just kind of mash it out into a disc. I'm going to wrap this in some cling wrap and stick it in the refrigerator for a minimum of 30 minutes. This tart is just so easy to make. We have our 3 cups of peaches. Let's squeeze a little bit of lemon juice on here. That just keeps them from browning up. Add a teaspoon of cinnamon and 1/8 teaspoon of nutmeg. A little nutmeg goes a long way. If you like a lot more nutmeg, you could use a 1/4 teaspoon, but no more than a 1/4 teaspoon. Let's add 4 tablespoons of flour. And if you have cornstarch, you could use 2 tablespoons. It will be half as much cornstarch as flour. And let's give this a toss. To this, we're adding 1/2 cup of sugar. Let's toss it again. So, I like to go ahead and coat my peaches so that they don't turn brown. Let's set this aside and get our crust ready. Using our all butter crust, we're going to make our peach galette into more of an oval shape. You can certainly make it round. You could roll this out into a 14-inch round, and that would work. I just like the look of my galette to be a little more of an oblong shape. So let's flour our rolling pan. We start from the center and roll out. This all butter crust is just so divine. It goes great with any type of pie. This tart is going to be so good. And if you want to change the flavor of your peach tart, to add some almond extract, you can certainly do that, and add a few sprinkled almonds. Almonds go great with peaches. A few cherries added in with the almond and the peach would be awesome. So let's get this crust rolled up and transfer it. Now when I get about halfway rolling my crust, I go ahead and add a little more flour here because that helps seal it as I'm rolling it. So when I unroll it, I have less likelihood of anything sticking. I just love making galettes. I am a huge fan of crust, pie crust. So I'm going to use a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. And since we've made oblong crust, what you want to do is hold this part towards you as you unroll, so that you can unroll this. This is going to, and I hold the rolling pin up in the air, because this is, you know, a lot more turns than a round pie crust. That unrolled beautifully. I just love a galette. I just can't tell you how much I love a galette. So that's the shape that we were going for, oblong. So let's fill this with our peach filling. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and coat the inside of this with some butter. Take about a half a teaspoon of butter, and this is salt. Just want to coat the inside out to about 2 inches. By coating the crust with the butter, it just creates a barrier between the crust and our juicy pie filling, and that just helps prevent the galette from getting soggy. Let's toss our peach pie filling. So I'm going to lay our filling out. The smell of peaches and cinnamon. There is no better smell in the summertime than fresh peaches. I think I've convinced myself to add a few cherries. Cherries and peaches. Oh, yum, yum, yum. Just a few. So the other thing I'm going to do is go ahead and squeeze just a little lemon juice on here. Just a little more. Trying to catch the seeds. Just a little more. Maybe a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon. Now we're going to lay this out. What I do, because I've got my filling running this way, I'm going to just go ahead and lay this on the sides. Pull this up just a little. Now fold that end. Fold, fold, fold. So you see how we have that folded. pull this in and just kind of pleat it, grab it, fold it, grab it, fold it, grab it, and fold it. I'm going to do one last thing to this. I'm going to brush it with an egg wash. Whisk together 1 egg with a tablespoon of water. You can use just the egg white, but I like the golden color. Take your pastry brush. You can use milk for this as well. I like to generously brush this with the egg wash. It makes it, it makes it come to a nice golden brown. This is going into a 375-degree oven on the next to the bottom rack for 35 to 40 minutes. Our peach galette just came out of the oven. What a beautiful rustic tart. It browned up beautifully. We use that all butter crust and it is going to be delicious. The ratio of crust to filling is just so good in this galette. If you like peach pie and you are a huge fan of crust like I am, you will love making this peach galette.